So I don't know if you all were present last week. If you were not, no problem. I have the notes. So before we get started with tonight's topic, I want to do a recap from last week. And last week we were talking about target practice. And I gave you 3 points to follow. The first one was to ruthlessly eliminate your goal, meaning you go after it. We're making sure that our goals are not in competition with one another. We're making sure that we're setting goals that will maintain our attention long enough, and we will not be so easily swayed by the next best thing. If you guys remember that, we talked about that last week. So I want to make sure that we are still on target. Discipline was a major point that I hit on last night. Are we being disciplined? Are we being diligent to the thing that we are saying that we are going to go after this year? Or is it optional? Are we being intentional? Are we being disciplined? Or are we writing things off as options? On point 2, we were supposed to stack our goals, meaning we were supposed to have goals that were specific, and we were going to make sure that our behavioral patterns were aligned with the thing that we said we wanted to pursue. Did we do that since the last time we spoke? Did we do that? Are we stacking our goals? Are we putting things in place that will eliminate the excuses? I had a boss that would always tell me, eliminate the excuses, take away the excuses, and we'll get closer to our results. Are we doing that with our goals? Point 3 was to set an upper bound, meaning we are not going for the bare minimum. We are looking for the thing that we can achieve, one that will stretch us, but not to the point to where we are unable to reach the thing because it's so far out of reach. We wanted to make sure that we had practical parameters, if you will. So that is the recap from last week. This week, I want to talk about residual effects. So this is how we consistently achieve our goals. And one of the major things that I want to talk about is environment tonight. I want to really hone in on putting ourselves in environments that will not drown our goals out or cause us to feel as if our goals cannot be reached, but putting ourselves in environments that will allow our dreams to flourish, putting us around the right groups of people, around the right spheres of influence. What is going to help us obtain the thing? If we're not in the right environment, the likelihood of our goals being achieved diminishes greatly. Okay. And to my point, when you set the right goals in the right environment, we block our ideas, or in environments that don't foster innovation, or environments where, that is good, but we actually want to give credit or credence to someone else. So we're going to actually take that idea and put somebody else's name on it so that we can push it forward. We've all been there. So we have to be careful, make sure that we are actually making a conscious effort to observe the environment that we are in so that we can set the right goals in the right environments and actually see some results. How are you guys doing in 2020? I mean, January is just about up. Like, that went by so fast. And I'm sure a lot of us set intentions. One of the things that I challenged you guys with was to make the plan and then submit it to the feet of God, the feet of Jesus. Did you take your plan and ask him to establish it? What does our proverb say? That a man can make his plans, but it's God who establishes them. So did we give it to God for him to establish? Or are we still locked into my way? This is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it at any cost, all costs, at the expense of? Or did we actually take those plans and submit them? I gave you guys some challenging work to do. I hope you did it. Because it's really going to help lay a foundation for a prosperous year. Okay, so what we need to do is put ourselves in environments where our desired behavior is more likely to become our default behavior. Okay, so how do we do that? So think about it this way. If you're aiming to drink more water, it's a lot easier to obtain that goal if the water is within reach consistently. It's a lot harder to say, I'm going to drink a gallon of water, but I'm surrounded with pots of coffee all day, or soda or juice. It's easier. I have easier access to the thing that's not what I'm wanting. So I find myself going back to that thing because it's easily accessible. If you think about it, I worked for the food bank for about 10 years. And one of the things that we would talk about when they were talking about Hi, Erica. I'm so glad to see you online. Sorry, guys, I got distracted there. Listen, I worked at the food bank for 10 years, and one of the things that we would talk about were food deserts. And that would mean that there would be quite a large distance between the neighborhood and maybe a grocery store. So a lot of what people had access to would be at a convenience store. And typically you're not going to find fresh produce, and you're not going to find things that will help you live a healthier lifestyle at a convenience store, right? You're going to find chips, you're going to find candy, you're going to find things that are loaded with sugar, contributing to childhood obesity, diabetes, all of those things, right? But is it really those individuals' fault? They are going after what is easily obtainable, not because they don't want better, but better is not within proximity. And so what I need for us to do when we are setting goals, when we're setting our intentions, is to put the desired thing in closer proximity so that I long for the better thing. I pursue after the better thing. I've got to find the thing, right? Yes, you might need to put yourself at his feet, ma'am. It might be time. It might be time. If you are the thing that you want to be better, it may be time to lay yourself at his feet. It might be time. And that's the best place to be. That's the best place to be if we're completely honest, okay? But think about it. If I want the better thing, I've got to put the better thing in proximity. I've got to find a way to make sure that what I am desiring is easily accessible. Can I get to it? Can I gravitate to it? Studies show if you are looking to lessen maybe your connectivity to social media, or if you don't want to be so dependent on your devices, well, you've got to put some distance between you and the device. If you are a person who has your charging station on your nightstand, the likelihood of you always being connected first thing when you wake up in the morning is higher, right? Because your phone is there. You're going to check your alerts. You're going to see if you have any missed calls. You're going to see if you've had any incoming emails, what have you. And so your attention immediately goes to the thing because it's right there. I don't have to work for it. The human nature is to get what's easily accessible with less toil. That's just how we're wired at times. So if I want to make sure that my mornings are spent on devotions, then I probably need to replace the phone with whatever my devotion is on. So if my devotion is in a book, if my devotion is in a journal, then my journal or my devotion needs to be in closer proximity than the thing that will distract me, so that my default is to go to the thing that is going to make me better. It's going to help me grow. It's going to help me cultivate who I want to be. I'm putting it in my proximity. I'm making it easily accessible. I'm removing and eliminating the excuses because I am more passionate about becoming the person that I long to be, more so than finding out what is the latest update on something that probably is not going to push me further down the line of what it is that I'm trying to pursue after. So can I, for a minute, stop being so easily distracted by the easily accessible thing that is my default? Are we going to change the defaults or not? I'm guilty of it. Guilty as charged. My cell phone is right next to my phone and I necessarily don't hear it, right? But I'll see the lights flickering. And so that light, it distracts me. It deters me. But I said that my mornings were supposed to be times where I allowed myself to sit quietly before God, hear what he has to say, help me set my intention for the day. So I have to be cognizant of what I allow to pull me out of it. So what do? I have my journal and my pen right next to my bed. I make the thing that I want to do more of easily accessible. If we're talking about target practice and we're talking about going after our goals relentlessly and we're talking about having residual impacts, we have got to change our defaults. 2020 is going to be a replica of what already was if our default do not change. We've got to change our default behaviors. I said it last time we were on, I'll say it again. I am not interested in the cliches. I am not interested in backflips and turns arounds and hope it's going to be better by the end of all of the exercises that had nothing to do with the goal. What is the goal? Do not find yourselves being busy for the sake of being busy anymore. We have got to divert our energy and our time into the thing that we have been sent on this earth to accomplish, because life is but a vapor and it will be gone before you know it. And my greatest regret would be to have lived a life, but just to merely have existed and not lived the life that I was sent here to live, to not have made the impact that I was called to make, the impact on people's lives that I was called to, that I missed because I was so busy. I was so distracted because I did not change my default. What are we going to do differently? None of that was on the notes, but I'm so passionate about it because I've been a product of that, been busy for the sake of being busy and then just tired at the end of it. No results, just fatigue. I don't want us to do that this year. I really want us to be focused on it. So think about it. How do we change it? Listen, a quote by James Clear says, achieving your goals in the long term is contingent upon the influences that you surround yourself with in the short term. Let me say it again and slow down. Achieving your goal in the long term is contingent upon the influences that you surround yourself with in the short term. If we talk about how long it takes to break and create a habit, this is something that I've shared with our tribe before, right? Most people talk about the 14 days that it takes to break a habit, but in order to create a new, it takes about 21 to about 40 days to create a new default. So when we are talking about changing our defaults to get desired outcomes, we have to apply grace, because you probably have more years or days behind you of your defaults than the new thing. So there may be times that we stumble. There may be times that we don't get it right. And that is not the time where you say that your goal was ineffective or that you are incapable of achieving them. It means that you still have to practice. We practice until it is perfected. We practice until it is second nature to us. We've got to give ourselves grace. And with grace, let's have some people that will hold us accountable. Now that you guys have written the plans, you've submitted them, and allow God to tell you yes, no, yes to this, no to that. And He is establishing the plan. So now we know what we're going to pursue after. Now we have a focus. Now we know this is the focus. Now, how do I achieve it consistently? Discipline. 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 Am I disciplined enough to stick to it? Am I disciplined enough to go out and get the education necessary? Am I disciplined enough to shut off the distractions? Am I disciplined enough to say no? I know so many people who don't really say no. They say maybe. You know you can't do it. You know you don't have the capacity to do it. So just say no. And that's fine, because that no has freed you up to give the yes to the thing that deserves it. I've given my no to the thing that is not tied to the goal, so that I can give my yes to the goal, because I want to see results. I want residual impacts. I want to have the things coming so swiftly because I am properly aligned. I am in the environment that I am called to. My voice is assigned to a tribe, and I'm speaking to that tribe consistently. I am in an environment where I will grow beyond what I ever imagined, because I am determined and I am disciplined. This year, determination and discipline are what is going to carry us. It's not enough to say it anymore. It's not enough to just merely wish. It's not going to work. We're going to have the same things that we've had in the past. Okay? So one of the things, because the psychologist in me loves to go look and see what are the case studies, what are we looking at that's showing some long-term impacts. And it talks about the choice architectural theory, and they abbreviate it to the nudge. And it basically talks about subtle intentions that guide our choices without restricting them. Because at the point where we feel restricted, we rebel. It's just natural. We rebel against it because we're feeling like, they're telling me all the things that I can't do. And the nudge gives you some suggestions. You ultimately make the decision, right? You ultimately make the decision. As a consultant, I give people their options, and I tell them the possible outcomes for whichever option they choose. They ultimately make the decision. That is the same thing when it comes to a nudge. Okay. If you think about it from a marketing perspective, a lot of stores do this, right? You have a full grocery store behind you, but then all of a sudden they have all these like grab and go items to entice you at the register. It's just a little nudge. Well, maybe you forgot this. Maybe you need this on your way out the door. Just little things, right? And they put it and they position it properly so that it'll catch your eye, and either it will lure you or not, but you'll see it. And either you'll see it and you'll go in the direction of that, or you'll keep going to the cash register because you're on a budget. Those are the nudges. I said I was no longer going to eat after 7 o'clock. And then you saw that cookie on the counter and it's 7:01, and you can either go and eat the cookie or you can stay on track. It's just a nudge. It's just a nudge. What are you going to do? It's up to you. You're going to make the decision, because we don't want to feel restricted. We don't want to feel like I'm so boxed in that I don't have the freedom to be. We always have the freedom to be. You always have the freedom of choice. But please be mindful that with every choice, there's a consequence, be it negative or not. There is a consequence tied to everything that we do. And we have got to, I told us last time, count up the cost. Count up the cost. If I make this choice today, what are the long-term effects of that choice? And will this choice hinder me from reaching the target? Will this choice give me residuals that I can be proud of? Or will these choices bring me some headache 10 to 5 years down the road? We have a choice. And I want us to continue to think about that. Don't be so quick to give an answer. If you need to take a minute to say, hold on, let me think about that. Let me make sure that I can actually commit to that before I say yes. Let me make sure that this is aligned with what my intention is for the year, what my goals are for the quarter, whatever it is, because every minute that you spend is a moment that you do not get back. So you got to be careful of how you expend your most precious resource, and your most precious resource is your time. So how are we doing it? Think about the environment. I want to go back to the environment for just a minute. Think about the environment that you know that you thrive best in. Think about it. Imagine it just for a minute. And then think about the environments where you find yourself shrinking. And ask yourself, am I spending more time in environments that push me, cultivate me, and make me better? Or do I find most of my time being spent in environments that cause me to scale back, that cause me to shrink, that cause me to become stagnant, that are stunting my growth? And we've got to make some decisions. Because if we have a goal in mind, our time really should be spent in the environment that fosters that thing. We cannot find ourselves out of obligations, these obligatory yeses that we give because we don't want to hurt feelings, or because we've always done it and the expectation is that we will continue. There's a no that is anointed. There is an anointing behind no, because you have one life to live. Your goals matter to you. We made sure of that during our last session. It has a personal connection. It is something that you are passionate about. You know that your goals are linked to your ultimate purpose of being here on earth. They deserve your yes in this season. Some people will just have to get over it. And honey, if they don't, oh well, because it's not them that will have to live with the consequences of a yes that they did not deserve. It is you. So what are we going to do? What are we saying no to? What are we saying no to? What are we saying no to? Who are we saying no to? Sometimes it's not a what, it's a who. And it's fine, you guys, because the no may just be for a season. And then it can come back around and you say, I wasn't able to commit in this season, but I've checked off some things. I have more availability and now I can. If the offer still stands, if there's still an area where I can serve, or if there's still a capacity that I can be utilized in, I'm happy to do that. And here is my availability. Set expectations. When it comes to your yes, you still can put parameters around your yes. I can, and this is what I'm able to do. Because again, we cannot have nudges that pull us off course. Not this year we can't. Not this time. Not this time. So yes, I can, and here's my availability. And you're still in control, right? You've given them something to work with. And now you're just not at the mercy of what somebody needs from you. You are doing your part, and you've given them the room to create something that either works for them or it doesn't. And that's okay, you guys. That is the power of boundaries. It's great because it gives us something to work within, and we are still in control in a sense, because it's like I'm giving you this much, but this is reserved for this, and these are the non-negotiables, right? Okay. When we're talking about goals, if we have some objectives that we're trying to reach, I prefer the opt-out versus the opt-in methodology. And if I explain it from HR, so to speak, we'll have programs where you actually are automatically enrolled, right? When you start with us, you're automatically enrolled. You have to come and decide to opt out of it. And if you don't, you just continue to stay enrolled in whatever that program is. Right? Because we have determined that this is something that is going to be beneficial to you. You may not see it on the forefront, but as you stay engaged and involved in it, you'll see, you know what? This is really good. I'm really glad that you guys just took the work out of it for me. I didn't have to figure it out. It was automatic, and I'm reaping a benefit because of it. Thanks so much. Okay. So what is an opt-out process for our life? If you have a financial goal in mind, set your direct deposit up to take that out at a frequency that you predetermined. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to move money over there. It's automatically going to the thing, and then don't touch it. Don't go deplete the thing that you're working towards, right? So it's automatic. I don't have to think about it. It's there. I'm on track to reach my goal. Thank you. The guesswork is done. Because what I know, especially when I'm doing strategic planning, is the more steps that somebody has to take to achieve a thing, the least likely they are to accomplish it. So if I can automate it for you and you no longer have to worry about it, now you're like, great, that was easy. I didn't have to think about it. This is what I know I can commit to at this frequency. Just go ahead and take care of it for me. And now it's second nature. I don't miss it. It's not money that I'm looking for, but I know that when I reach the goal for whatever I was setting this money aside for, now I get to fully enjoy it, and I didn't have to toil for it because it was automatic. Yeah. It seems so simple, but getting in the rhythm of it initially is often the hardest phase of it, because we're trying to find our footing in it because we've never done it before, but we know that it's going to be beneficial to us in the long run. So we commit to it. We stay with it. We don't give up. We don't get flustered. Like if you're saving money, you can't take it out every month because that's counterproductive, right? So you put the money aside. It's for something. If we're doing, I had a friend say this on Facebook like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, we need to start a fund for that. And it was a YOLO fund, right? Because sometimes, being an adult and wanting to just do a thing, we often have to decide to do the adult thing, right? But I was like, but what if we had a YOLO fund and we just put money to the side? We have a pot. And then at that moment where we just want to splurge on something, we have a splurge fund. So now we're like, yes, I get to do adult things and I get to splurge on this thing, because truly I've only got one life to live. And at some point I should be able to do something spontaneous and enjoy it, but be responsible in your spontaneity. Does that make sense? My grandmother ingrained this in me from a little girl. She would always be like, make sure you have 3 months back. Make sure you have 3 months back. And so my grandma would always tell us, you pay yourself first and you make sure you've got some money to the side, because a rainy day is bound to happen, because that's just how life is. And you don't always want to have to be in a bind. Okay. So maybe we're not at the point where we can have 3 months back, but at least let's have something. Let's have something to show for all the work that we're doing. Let's have something to show for the investment of our time Monday through Friday or whatever your work week is. Make sure you have something to show for it because that company does. That company has the projects that you completed. That company has, you know what I mean? Whatever it is that they have required of you, and you should have something to show for it at the back end. You should not always be at the mercy of your present circumstance. Now, I don't know why I feel prone to say that, but you should not always be at the mercy of your present circumstance. You should always be thinking about, okay, and in the event of, I have made provisions because life happens, right? Okay, so let's do the opt-in policy. Automate as much of it as possible. Whatever the process is, can this be automated? Can this be something that I don't have to think about to make sure that I stay on track and I get to enjoy the fruit of the goal that I've set, okay? This is not anything new. A lot of people talk about setting SMART goals. I just want to talk about it here briefly. And a SMART goal is a goal that is specific, it's measurable, achievable, it is relevant, and it's time bound. So specific, I like to go, God said, write the vision to make it plain. Simplicity. You have got to initially make something simplistic so that your brain can capture it. Okay. So if there's a way to diagram out what it is that you're aiming for, because our brain works in pictures, right? So if I say cat, you're going to envision a cat, whatever color cat that was or whatever. If I say house, you're typically going to envision the house that you would want. So you're giving your brain a picture, and that picture becomes the model that your thoughts then pursue after. Okay. So can we make a goal that's specific enough to still give us room to imagine, but is focused enough so that we know what we are pursuing after? Okay, so it has to mean something, even in the simplicity of it. It has to have some significance. Why this goal? What does it mean to me? Is it enough to keep my attention? Is it enough to keep my attention? Because sometimes we set goals and they are short-lived because it's not significant enough to hold our interests. Okay. So make sure that it's significant. And if it is, it should be measurable. And measurable, things that are measurable motivate us. Like if you think about it, I talked about it last time, healthy competition, what will keep our leg in the race, what will keep us going after it. And is it measurable? We want to see some growth. We want to see some potential. So put our goals on cycles where we are going to go and look at the return on our investment. Okay. I set this goal in January. By February, this is where I want to be. By March, this is where I want to be. Don't just let it linger, because if we're never going back and measuring the thing, it will get lost in translation, because January to December is a long time. And if we're never going back and making sure we're on track, we really don't know if we are succeeding or if we're failing because we're not tracking it. Okay. So put your goals on review cycles. I'm going to look at this 3 to 4 times a year, or I'm going to look at this monthly. If it's something that you need to look at more frequently, be honest about it and be diligent enough and disciplined enough to make sure that we are going back and we are reassessing the goal. Is it achievable? Is this something that I can attain? Is it truly? And if it's not something that you can attain independently, be honest about that and think about the resources that you need to pull in to help you achieve the goal. Because ultimately, we don't want to fail, right? We want to be able to achieve what it is that we are pursuing after. But if we cannot do it in our own strength, this is where we pull in resources to help us do it, so that we can see strides in the right direction. Is it relevant? Is it results based? Like, is this a wish or is this a goal? Is it something that I like for a moment, or is this really a life goal? Is this really something that I'm pursuing after? Or is it a negotiable? Because if they're negotiable, I talked about it last time. I said we need to black them out, black mark it out. It's not relevant, not today anyway. Okay. So make sure that our goals are relevant, that they are reasonable, right? We can't put a seed in the ground today and expect for a harvest tomorrow. So, and making sure that we're applying relevancy, make sure that you are giving things the adequate time to see results. Okay. Is it time bound? Am I going to make sure that I look at it and how long will this goal take to achieve? I feel like I got kicked in the teeth today listening to something because I'll be honest, you guys know I'm very transparent. I had some things on my heart and I was just like, dang, I don't feel like any of this is like happening. Like I feel like everything is just dormant. And I had some very specific things that I was talking to God about. And I was like, well, dang, like, is there a sprout or something coming out the ground yet? And I was listening to something this morning. It was like, you've got to remember, and it's not anything that's like, the angels didn't come down from heaven, but it was just a reminder that I needed, that when you are a person who dreams big, you got to give time for the big thing to develop and grow and show results, because you're not asking for $20, Jamila. Like, you're asking for something that ultimately will have a global reach. Like, I dream on that level, but I hadn't developed a level of patience required for what I'm petitioning for. So I had to go back and repent and say, okay, I'm submitted. Here I am, Jaleesa. I had to get his feet too. Here I am back at your feet, asking you, put me back in perspective, put me back in right alignment, because what I want, you guys, is more about the people than me. It's more about the lives that I want to see changed than it is about me. And what I'm learning is, even in some of my processing, that I'm being processed in the very areas that I know are going to impact the people that I ultimately want to be a hand for, a bridge for, the people that I kind of want to be able to show another lifestyle, another way, another alternative. Even if you did come from this, even if you did start here, it's still obtainable to you. And I am learning day by day that in order for me to be able to convey that I'm going to have to be relatable to them, not by word only, but through life experiences. And so whatever your goals are, whatever the audience is, if it's ministry bound, whatever it is, you guys, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to become the living example of those that you are called to impact. It doesn't matter if it's church bound, if it's in the corporate sector, wherever it is, because ultimately your greatest influence is your life. Your greatest influence is how you overcame. Your greatest influence is how you tell somebody how maybe you were a C average or a D average student and you still went on to get your doctorate degree or whatever, or how you maybe started off as a janitor and then you worked your way up to a VP. Whatever, your path is your greatest testimony. And so people are looking to see truly, how did that happen? And how long did it take? Because people want to know, like, I've got to be committed to a thing, obviously, for a particular time frame. And so I need to know if I have the discipline for that or what I need to build the discipline up for. Right? So if we talk about college, or we talk about degrees, 2 years as your associate, 4 years as your undergrad, your master's is going to be another, 2 to 3 doctoral degrees, or another 7 to 8. I mean, you're knowing. So you're like, okay, so if I want to achieve this is the length of time that I've got to commit to it. And so there may be some things that I have to take off the plate to allow me to focus on it for this block of time. Like, be serious about it this time. And don't make you an option this time. Don't make you an option. You are the priority. You have to be, because if you're not your own priority, you can't expect to be somebody else's, because they've not seen you make you a priority. So they don't even know what that looks like. Right? So you guys know I don't hold you long, but what I do want us to do, I really want us to take some time and journal and think about what are the things that are going to help me gain the residual effects when it comes to my goal. I have my target. I got that, right? And so now I'm aiming. But how do I make sure that in my aim, I hit the target every time? How do I make sure that I have residual effects? How do I make sure that I'm consistently achieving the things that I'm setting after in 2020 and beyond? How am I going to do that? Starts with your environment. It starts with your environment. And so now that we know where we're going, now it's time to ask ourselves, am I in the position or the environment that's going to allow me to truly see these outcomes? And if not, now it's time to determine where you're supposed to be It may be time to get quiet and get still enough to ask, all right, so if I'm not supposed to be here, where am I supposed to be? And if I am supposed to be here and I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall, what do I do to overcome the barriers? Because just because it's difficult doesn't mean that's not where you're supposed to be. It may be that you just haven't learned the ropes in this environment yet. So what do I need to be doing differently to stop hitting the glass ceiling or the brick wall? If I am supposed to be in this environment and I feel stuck and I feel like achieving the goal seems unattainable, what is it that I need to be considering that I haven't yet considered to make sure that I'm able to achieve the goal? It starts with our environment. Sometimes our environment is our mindset. Is my mindset restricting me from achieving that which what I'm after? Do I need to detox my mental maps? Do I need to create new ones? Is there something internally that's causing me to be hesitant in achieving the next thing because the last thing failed? What is it? What am I going to do different? I want to see results. I said it last time, no excuses in 2020, results only. I don't feel my best. I am on here anyway. My nose is stuffy. I'm sure I sound like Miss Piggy, but it's fine because this is a goal and consistency is what I'm committed to. And I want to see an impact every time that I'm on. And so I'm going to do it. Did you do what I asked you to do last week, you guys? Because it's setting you up for the residual impact. Is it? Did you do it? I hope so. I'm giving you another layer to that, and it's going to wrap up our goal setting session. So we have our target. We know what we're aiming for. Now it's time to consider our environments. We potentially may have to make some changes in the environment or change environments, but don't let the environment be the reason that you don't see the effect that you should this year. Consider it. What did I say earlier? Long-term impact has everything to do with your short-term influences. So what's influencing you today is going to have an impact on tomorrow. So make sure that you're in a place where you're getting the influences that are necessary to get you going to where you need to be. Make sure you're surrounded with voices that can speak well into you, people that can speak into you, people that can pull you up. You have to be in environments where people are 2 to 5 years ahead of you. You've got to be in environments where somebody is 10 years down the road so they can actually tell you where to turn left and turn right. You've got to be environments where you have some pushers where people can be your cheerleaders, but you cannot hear the voices of your cheerleaders so much so that you can hear the wisdom of the mentor. You got to have balance. It's going to require balance this time. Sometimes you got to tell your cheerleaders to be quiet. Sometimes you got to tell your cheerleaders, you're distracting me. I need to hear the voice of the mentor. I need to hear wisdom. I don't need to hear that I'm right. Maybe somebody needs to correct me. Maybe somebody needs to push me. It's going to matter this time. And I truly believe that setting the proper foundation will really help us. You guys, I love strategy. If y'all want me to add, if you have questions for me about strategy, I love strategy. Now, I promise you, I'm probably going to get on your nerve because I am very detail oriented, but I would rather have contingencies and think about the details than to not, and then us have faltered unnecessarily. So if you have questions for me and you're like, Jamila, okay, listen, this is the thing. I love those kind of conversations. I come alive in a strategy meeting. It is where I love to be. I love to help create boundaries and borders and culture and environments and set people up to win. I love that. So if you want me to help, inbox me. Let's have a conversation about it. That's what I love to do. This year, I want to see your results. And again, I'm championing you. I'm cheering for you. If I don't have the relationship to correction's not going to come from me. I promise you that. If you ask me something, you will get my honest opinion, but I don't go around bashing and correcting people. That's not my role in everybody's life. There are those that I have that relationship with. If that's something that you desire, feel free, let me know. But let's win, you guys. Let's have impact. So that wraps up our goal setting. I hope we're off to a great start. Tonight's journal entry. Truly, I want us to talk about our environments. Am I in the right environment? Be still enough, be quiet enough to get an answer. Don't manipulate an answer because you want something so badly. Be still, be quiet enough. Determine, am I in the right environment that will produce or will allow me to produce residual effects when it comes to my dreams and my goals? And if not, it's time to make some hard decisions. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's session. Have a good night. Bye-bye.